The thing that makes putting easier in the long run is having great fundamentals. Starting with the grip's a great place. What I share is what's called a reverse overlap grip. It's the grip Mr. Lanning taught me when I was a kid, and I still believe it's what will have a person hold onto the putter and be most relaxed and be able to repeat a stroke. The reason it's reverse overlap is instead of having your right pinky finger overlap, in this grip we're going to have our left index finger overlap. The key elements really are trying to get this grip to run up the lifelines of my hand versus down in my fingers or across my fingers like I do in a golf swing. I want it to really run up the lifelines. What I try to do is I try to put my hand on the grip so that my forearm and my hand are in line. A lot of people have their hand on so that there's a big curve in their wrist so that their forearm and their hand aren't in the same place. And I want that to happen with both hands. You see, I can have it in the lifeline of my left hand and my right hand. The big advantages to that are when I set up, now all of a sudden you see the shaft in my left forearm, the shaft in my right forearm are all on the same plane, okay? Also, when I get those hands on there just right, the top of my forearms, can you put your putter on the top of my forearms? Just lean it across there. Now the top of my forearms are on there straight. What I see a lot of people do is they get this right hand up high. Do that again. Let me show you how that looks. You see how now if you put it on the left forearm, wow, my forearm's aimed way to the left. Yeah. And so that's a big piece of why I want my grip to be very fundamental, because that affects my stroke. When my right arm gets high, my stroke tends to go outside.
Okay. All right, so first it's going to go almost like a trigger, or?
One, I want you to just stand up and let your arms hang down, okay? And what I want you to do is observe how your hand hangs. You see your hands turn in just a little bit, okay? Well, that's how we want them to go on the putter head. I see so many people take their grip and they put their grip way over here to the left. Well, if my grip's to the left and I turn it back to neutral, that opens the face, which is really a problem with a lot of people's strokes, is their face is opening through the stroke. It goes back to, is the grip fundamental or not? So to get your hand on there the way it hangs down, we're going to have this left thumb run straight down the shaft, and the meaty part of that left thumb is going to be right on top. Now, to get this right hand on there properly, I want you to take this lifeline right in the middle of your hand. I want you to place it right on this knuckle, and that will help you get your right hand now on the shaft or on the grip on plane. Now both thumbs will be pointed right down the shaft. Sometimes the grip feels a little weak because a person's used to squeezing it with all their fingers. But what you're going to catch on to soon is that really you're holding on to the back side of the grip with your fingertips on both hands. And in the end, that's going to have you hold it much lighter and much softer than ever before. It's going to give you better touch. The other key thing is to get that right hand down there correctly. I'm really going to try to get the lifeline up in the top of my right hand to place directly on top of the last knuckle of my middle finger on my left hand. And so it's a blending of getting the two hands to go on the grip in the lifeline so that the shaft runs up both forearms. Let me share some fundamentals on how I believe you want to set up to the ball, how your posture and stance should be. We're really looking for balance whenever we're trying to set up. Our feet are, a putter head and a half wide. Okay, I see people sometimes they take their putter stance and their stance is really wide. I want the stance preferably narrow. I also am looking to have my body be in a nice alignment. I like for the stance to set up where it's square, so my feet, my knees, my hips, my shoulders, everything is in alignment. I also have people really work hard on, can they tilt over from the hip joints? I see people kind of slump over or bend their spine. Well, when we play golf, we're playing around our spine. Well, it's going to work around better if it's in good posture. Right. I'm not terribly concerned about how much someone bends over. I want them to be very comfortable. Some people like to tilt over a lot. Some people like to stand up tall, but I want them to tilt over from their hip joints, keep their spine relatively flat on the back or somewhat in good posture as they tilt over. But we also want to tilt straight over. One way to check that is if we pay attention to where our placket and our belt buckle or our zipper is, I would want to tilt straight over. I see people all the time, they lean to the left or they lean way to the right. That just throws off the fundamentals of letting the stroke swing on the curve. Once we get set up and our tilt is in a comfortable position, what I'm really going to pay attention to is then where's the balance, okay? I'm looking for balance, not just where is it on my left foot, my right foot, heel to toe. I want it centered. That way when I begin to make my stroke, it's going to have flow and my body is reacting to having already been balanced. If you set up off balance and you haven't found your center, your body's always trying to find it, okay? Well, right in mid-stroke sometimes it's looking for balance. That can throw your stroke off.
So should your shoulders be level at address?
I see people sometimes where their spines lean to the left or lean too far to the right. That all affects the tilt of their shoulders, which should be not quite level, but close to level. Usually their right shoulder slightly below their left shoulder.
Where do my arms need to hang?
I like for the arms to be very relaxed and on the sides. I do not want my elbows out and away because as I make this stroke and I let it flow around my body, it's going to be much freer with my arms very soft. And I like the elbows to have a little bit of bend in them. I don't want them locked out or straight. It's important to understand that we need these arms to be soft and we also want them to turn in. I see a lot of people with their elbows out.
Right.
Well, that has their shoulders rock a little more up and down the target line that I would like to have them be swinging on. I want this stroke to be free-flowing and very athletic. I see people tense up all the time. Their shoulder joints and their elbow joints appear to be fused during the stroke. Well, I want them to be free and flowing during the stroke.
So Stan, where do I want to put the ball in my stance?
You know, I missed that before. I think because we're swinging on this natural curve of the stroke, I really want the face of my putter centered in my stance. Then obviously the ball's out ahead of that. If a person can really monitor that, I think it will bring them consistency on striking the ball in the right position. One other element to set up really has to do with how the shaft leans. I see a lot of people that they lean the shaft backwards. Well, if you get the shaft lean backwards, you're going to take the grip back first. What we're trying to do with this stroke is have the energy be down on the end that hits the putt. So I really prefer that people set up at least in a neutral position where the shaft is straight up and down, preferably with a little bit of forward press. My putter's set up so that I know I've built in 1 degree of forward press. I actually added a little extra loft so that at impact, when I swing back into the ball, I still have my 4 degrees of loft at impact, but I know that when I have my shaft forward, it helps me put better contact, more solid hit on the ball.
So I've always heard that you want your eyes over the ball. Is that right?
I get this question all the time. So many people have read and heard and they've tried to get their eyes over the ball. Well, the truth is, research shows most players on the tour, most good players, their eyes are actually inside the target line or inside the ball. They're not over the ball. So a good check for that is a little drill I learned a while back. It's when I set up over the ball, now I've got my posture, I take a second ball and I just drop it from my left eye. And you see it hit the ground, about 1 inch inside the ball and about 1 inch behind the ball. And so when I'm practicing, that's something I work on to have be consistent. My tendency is I get too far away. I know if this ball drops 3 or 4 inches, I need to scoot back up.